The Price of Truth, Nietzsche's Dark Mirror. Act 1. The Curse of Consciousness, the important thin line between genius and madness. We have been listening to this story for many years, but Dostoevsky hits the mark much deeper. To be too conscious is literally a disease, a real thoroughgoing disease. Just imagine, a genius puts everything on the line to reach the truth. If one of these sacrifices is his own mental health, how right is it to label him as mad? Friedrich Nietzsche chased this truth throughout his life, and while chasing it, he promised himself to protect his sanity. At the end of the road, perhaps his mind could not carry this weight, but the ideas and thoughts he left behind made him the most staggering philosopher in history. Today, from the movies we watch to the books we read, his footprints are everywhere, because he lit a light by opening that door, where once you look at life through his eyes, you can never go back to your old self. Act 2. God is Dead and the Emerging Void. Nietzsche's most famous and perhaps most distorted quote, "God is dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves?" To understand this, we need to go to the 19th century, to the very peak of the Enlightenment. As reason and science progressed, the Western world detached from the concepts of religion and God that it had held onto for centuries. People could no longer find that old motivation to go to church or to pray. But there was a problem. When that authority, which had been at the center of life for ages, disappeared, a massive lack of meaning emerged. If the rules of the game no longer exist, what shall we live for? With this question, nihilism rose. That cold wind saying life has no meaning and that everything we believe in is actually nothing. Nietzsche did not say this with a sense of victory, my friend. On the contrary, he was in a state of great anxiety. He was afraid of humanity drowning in this void. Act 3. The Overman and the Sanctity of Pain. Nietzsche threw a lifebuoy to escape this swamp of nihilism. The Overman, or Übermensch. He said in his book, "Thus spoke Zarathustra. Dead are all gods, now we want the Overman to live. So who is this Overman? It is the person who rejects the ready-made values imposed by society and creates their own meaning. They do not follow the path of the herd, they open their own way. If you want to be an Overman, you must change your perspective on pain." According to Nietzsche, running from pain is running from development. That is why he was against everything that numbs a person. He criticized alcohol and even religion for this reason. Because these dull the pain, but they also keep you stagnant. You must feel pain in all its nakedness, because that pain is the only thing that exalts you. As Nietzsche said, "What you call the devil, I will call the Overman." Act 4. A Misunderstood Legacy. This Overman idea was pulled into very dangerous places. Nazi Germany and Adolf Hitler used this concept for their own fascist ideologies. It is true that Hitler was a fan of Nietzsche, but honestly, if Nietzsche were alive, he would have hated Hitler. Nietzsche was not a German nationalist, nor was he an anti-Semite. He was against all forms of herd mentality, and fascism is the ultimate peak of the herd. His ideas shook not only politics but also popular culture. The creators of Superman originally were inspired by Nietzsche when they designed him. Jack London's Martin Eden was born as a critique of this selfish but massive ego. Everyone took a piece of Nietzsche's unstoppable idea of human will. Act 5. The Will to Power and the Two Moralities. What keeps us alive? Freud said pleasure, Frankl said meaning. But according to Nietzsche, our main engine is the will to power, that desire to grow and dominate. which exists not only in humans but in all living things. Starting from here, Nietzsche divided the world into two: master and slave morality. Master morality is close to the Overman. It values power, prestige, and courage. It does not hesitate to be harsh when necessary. Slave morality is the morality of the weak. It markets its weakness as goodness, its cowardice as patience, and its helplessness as mercy. Nietzsche realized this. In the ancient world, there was only master morality, but then the weak united and created their own moral systems. Now weakness became humility, and poverty became gratitude. The slaves had replaced the values of the master with a mask. Act 6. Eternal recurrence and the love of fate. The next thought is the kind that levels a person. Eternal recurrence. Nietzsche says, "This life as you live it with every pain and joy, you will have to live again and again in the same order for eternity. You cannot break this cycle. If this idea crushes you, it means you are living your life wrong. This is where amor fati, the love of fate, comes into play. Instead of hating your fate or trying to change it, embracing it exactly as it is." Nietzsche lived this personally in his own life. Health problems, books that didn't sell, failed romances. Despite all this, instead of rebelling, he said, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." He was even grateful for his illness, because those pains taught him philosophy. Act 7. The horse and the final silence and the final. Nietzsche, that brave man who took his thoughts to the very end, was crushed under his own weight. In Turin, he saw a horse being whipped by its owner. This man who said, "Be harsh" all his life, who talked about the Overman, ran to that horse, hugged its neck and wept. He whispered, "I understand you." That was the breaking point. He collapsed, and when he woke up, that old genius was gone. He suffered a stroke, forgot how to speak and how to walk. His mind could no longer handle the pressure of those dark waters. The greatest figure of modern philosophy, drowned in the ocean he created. But the legacy he left behind still asks us that vital question. Are you brave enough to love your own fate